Hello, English 3, and welcome back to American Literature. So today we are going to be working on a short story. This is going to be our last thing for the week. We're going to be doing this short story both Thursday and Friday. So it won't be due until Friday, just so you know. So you'll have 2 days to work on it. Just a few quick reminders. First of all, the vocab homework for that vocabulary word list number 2 is going to be due on Friday, October 2nd. So if you haven't been able to work on that, please make sure that you get it done and turned in. And then we will be doing the quiz a week from Friday. So not this Friday, but next Friday. And then the other reminder is I'm not going to make a recording video for this, but there will be another Socratic seminar prep on Friday that will come onto Google Classroom that you can fill out. It's the same thing as last time, just 2 questions about any of the readings from this week. So, but today we're working with a short story, and our short story is Young Goodman Brown by Nathaniel Hawthorne. So if you were with us in class, we talked about, when we talked about Puritanism, we talked about Nathaniel Hawthorne and how he wrote The Scarlet Letter. If you're familiar with that book at all, it was also about Puritan culture. And so even though Nathaniel Hawthorne was from a later time period than all of the other works that we're reading, a lot of his fiction that he has written is about Puritanism. And so that's why we're looking at the story. He's one of the few authors we're reading that are truly outside the time period that we've been studying in American literature. But this story in particular is very prevalent to the time period that we are studying. And it is about Puritanism and honestly a bit about the hypocrisy in Puritanism. So think about that as a theme as you move forward, about how strict Puritans are, like we read in Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God, versus what is actually being done behind the scenes. So it's a very interesting story with a lot of characters, and so what we're going to be working on is a character analysis. So in Google Classroom, under character analysis, Hawthorne, there's this sheet that I have ready to go for you. It just has a couple of simple questions that I want you to fill out about your character. So if you are at home or if you are missing class and are now watching this video, you have free reign for what character you want to choose. So they're listed in that post in Google Classroom, and you can choose any of them that you want. Some of them have larger roles in the story than others, so depending on how much you like short stories and character analysis, you might choose a different one, or you might just choose one that you find who has the most interesting reveal of their character. So whoever you want to choose, you can put that character name at the top. And then there are these questions laid out. And I just want to walk you through these with an example. And our example is going to be Cinderella. Hopefully you have seen Cinderella. I feel like it's one of the most common Disney movies. So hopefully that will help you visualize what you need to do for this assignment. So if we were filling out this character analysis sheet for Cinderella, and we had what are your initial perceptions of the character? And as a note, you should do this step when you read your story and you find the first sentence of your character, you should complete this step. So what are your initial perceptions of your character? So for Cinderella, when we first see her, maybe we just think that she's, a nice girl, kind of like living in this house with her stepmother. And maybe we don't quite see immediately all of the awful things that are going on behind the scenes. So maybe that's just kind of our initial perception. She's had a rough life. Obviously, both of her parents have passed, but she seems okay. She's living with her stepmother and her stepsisters. And so maybe that's our initial perception, but we don't have the full story yet. And I want you to do this because this story, like I said, is big about hypocrisy. And when you first meet the character versus at the end of the story, you're going to have very different ideas of who they are. And so your initial perceptions might not be correct, and that's okay. That's kind of the point of completing this step. And for the textual evidence of this, you might just want to quote that first line that character appears, that you're getting those perceptions from. And just as a reminder, textual evidence, always try to find something in the text that you can back up your points with. This is going to be very important moving forward, so I really want you to be able to look in the text and say, okay, here is my evidence for the thing for my answer, for my claim. Okay, and then question number 2. Who is your character? So think description, job, age, gender. You might also even think people or other characters that they're related to. So for this one, for Cinderella, we would say she's a girl or a woman. You could even describe that she's white and that she has blonde hair. We may also say that she is a maid or maybe even a servant in her stepmother's household as her occupation. And anything else that we could list about her. We might even list in this area for Cinderella that she has a very good relationship with all the animals in the house. We might list that her parents have passed, but she lives with her stepmother and her stepsisters. Those could all be things about the character. So don't just say a man or something like that. Really think about who they're related to, what's going on in the story, and kind of a more full picture of this character. And you might have multiple pieces of textual evidence for this one because you might be pulling different little pieces out of the story. Okay, and here's where we get into more of an analysis of the character. So what do they want? For some characters, this will be harder to figure out than others. But do your best to really look at this story and think about what the motivations, or sorry, not necessarily motivations is the next question, but it also helps you think of their goal. What is the end goal of this character? And so for Cinderella, you might be thinking her end goal is to get married and find a prince, but actually Cinderella's main goal is to kind of be out of her stepmother's grasp. That's the whole thing with her wanting to go to the ball. She just doesn't want to be around her abusive stepmother for one night. She actually isn't looking for a prince. That's just kind of what ended up happening. So really dig deep and don't just look at what happened, but why it is happening. And that will tell you what the character wants and what their goal is. Then for this next one, what are their motives? So why do they want what they want, or what is their motivations for doing the things that they're doing? And once again, some of these might be easier to figure out than others. Some of those minor characters aren't as developed in the story, but you can still find an answer for this. So what are their motives? Try to really dig down deep. So for Cinderella, what are her motives for not wanting to be around her stepmother? Well, her stepmother is abusive. We see that she ruins, or her stepsisters as well, but her stepsisters ruin the dress that her mother gave her. And we see all of these things of abuse that are happening, and that is her motive for wanting to get out of that situation. This question is probably one of the more difficult ones as well. So how can you connect them to Puritan culture? So think sinners in the hands of an angry God. So what about that cultural sermon, if you will, and also just the thing that we learned in the video we watched, or anything else that you might know about Puritanism, can you connect to your character? It might be something simple. It might be something a little bit more broad. Try to think of some of those ideals you learn in Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God, like wrath, hell, and damnation, kind of their ideas of very strict and stringent policies, and also think about how important appearances are in Puritan culture. And not appearances as in looking nice, but appearances as in appearing to be a holy, I'm doing air quotes, we can't see it around holy, a holy person. So think about what is being represented in that way for them. And you might also think of some roles that you're seeing in the story as well. So how could we connect Cinderella to Puritan culture? I'm not sure that we could very well. We could maybe talk something about how women weren't housewives sort of a thing, but since she's not married, it's not maybe the greatest example. I suppose there is the fairy godmother, so maybe we could talk about witchcraft in relation to Cinderella and how that would have exiled her from Puritan culture. That's a stretch, but just for example, you could think about something like that. And then this one is the easiest one. How do you personally feel about this character? So just personally, like, how do you feel about their decisions? Were you shocked at what happened in the story? Is it something you found interesting? And then for textual evidence here, just like quote maybe something if you found something interesting, or just a line that the character has that maybe makes you feel a certain way about them. So this one's pretty free range. However you feel about them, maybe you just think they're awful. That's okay. Whatever works. Okay, and I hope that was a good example for you to see exactly how this works. So for this last one, for Cinderella, I personally like Cinderella, and I think her story is very interesting. And I definitely think that I feel very sympathetic for her throughout her story. And so then I could maybe quote some things that have happened to her in my textual evidence section. So if you need any help with this, do let me know. Just as a reminder, both this PDF with the short story, which you'll see is 10 pages, and then also this character analysis sheet are both on Google Classroom under that character analysis Hawthorne post. Don't forget your vocab homework, and don't forget that there will be the Socratic Prep number 2 posted tomorrow, Friday. And anything else that you need for any of this, just let me know. I would always be happy to help.